NASA themselves said they do not do hyperbaric chamber training because it's not necessary. So then why is NASA lying to us again? I am just so sick of the lies. I am sick of the lies, the BS, the cover-ups coming from organizations like NASA, CERN, Fermilab, among others. We can't even get a straight answer from weather applications like Ventusky. They are always lying to us, and when they're caught doing something weird, when they're caught doing something abnormal or strange, instantly the cover-ups begin, and you will still have people to buy into these lies. This is why they can easily keep on deceiving us. Minutes of horror, that massive blob over on Bouvet Island in Antarctica, is just a glitch, bro. That ritualistic sacrifice that took place inside CERN in front of their god statue was just a hoax. Why was it just a hoax? Because CERN's spokesperson came out and told us so. Nothing to see here, because CERN investigated CERN and found out that CERN was not involved in any wrongdoing. You'll have these goofballs, and I don't know if they're goofballs or AI bots, because I do believe in the dead internet theory. I do believe the majority of the internet is dead and it's being controlled by AI. So you'll have these goofballs or AI that will always believe the original narrative. Minutes of horror, you are just spreading fear. You are the mongerer of fear. They told us what they were doing. It came from the source itself. Why can't you just believe NASA? Yes, NASA, the organization that clearly has a serpent's tongue in its logo. Let me stop, because if I keep going, I will keep ranting. But this brings us to a very odd and strange news story that happened Wednesday night that involves NASA and the International Space Station. So we're going to go ahead and read this article from NBC News. The article is titled, NASA Accidentally Airs Space Station Emergency Drill, Fueling Public Alarm. On Wednesday at around 6:28 p.m., the regular scheduled live stream was interrupted, apparently by the flight surgeon. This is what was transmitted.
5 minutes out. Okay. Yes. So then, thank you for clarification. So if we could get Commander back in his suit, get it sealed, and step into procedure 5.180 for suited hyperbaric treatment, section 3 for oxygen post-splashdown, that would be my recommendation. I'll copy. Copy. Understand that this is a best effort treatment, and so whatever you can do is going to be better than doing nothing. And just as an FYI, prior to sealing, closing the visor and pressurizing the suit, I would like you to check his pulse one more time. I'll copy. Correct, yes. That would be, actually, Sis, you're on this call. How much oxygen do we have remaining in minutes? Perfect. So, yes, then I would like you to have 100% O2 flowing via mask while you get the suit on. Prior to closing the visor and pressurizing, I'd like you to do a pulse check one more time and then step into 5.180, section 3. Is there a way that the mask can be attached? So is there a way that we could get the suit over the head, have the visor open, and put the mask at least close to his face while you finish sealing up the suit, or is that not feasible? Copy. Copy. Well, I think at this point, because the hypobaric exposure is the big problem, and given his exam, I am concerned that there are some severe DCS hits, and so I would recommend trying to get him in the suit as soon as possible and giving oxygen as best as able during that process, but the best thing would be to get him in the suit at ASAP. Thank you. And cis, we are okay to deprivatize at this time. Just as a FYI for you, I am still about 1 hour out from NCCX. Unfortunately, we will need to keep doing the phone situation until I am able to be there. I am currently stuck in traffic. I can, while we don't have other flight surgeons on call, while I am stuck in traffic, I can reach out to see if there's anyone who can get there sooner than 1 hour. That being said, there really isn't anything we could do in person that we can't do over the phone at this point. Unfortunately, the prognosis for Commander is relatively tenuous, I'll say, at this point, to keep it generic. So one thing, I don't know if you got this message before, but I did find through Dan, I did find a hospital in Spain that has critical care facilities and hyperbaric treatment facilities. Would you like me to give you that hospital and their phone number again? Okay, so that is San Carlos, Sancarlos, in San Fernando, spelled the normal way, and that's in the province of Cadiz, Cadiz, in Spain. And that phone number is country code 34956819043. Again, that number is country code 34956819043. How copy? Copy. In the meantime, I will continue my trek in. Otherwise, I will see if a flight surgeon can be there sooner. And then you are free to call me with any updates or any changes. If the crew do get suited and start the treatment and they make a call down, I would request to be updated at that point.
Now, apparently, since this transmission accidentally crossed over and leaked, and we don't know if this was an accident or it was intentional, because the thing is, how many times has something like this leaked out? I do not remember something like this happening once before in my 38 years on this planet, but since this happened, NASA was forced to give a response. NASA tried to reassure the public by stating, "Do not worry, do not be alarmed, this was only a training exercise," that the flight surgeon was only playing out a scenario in which she gave the ISS crew advice on how to deal with a commander suffering from serious compression sickness. When they start to quickly cover up suspicious things that are either caught on camera, seen, or heard, people are quick to poke holes in their narrative. One of the talking points happens to be that when this crossed over, once again, this crossed over at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, which for the International Space Station would be 9:30 p.m. GMT time, which is Greenwich Mean Time. So during that time, the astronauts should have been asleep. I actually do want to make a correction that 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time actually happens to be 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So no training should actually be conducted during this time when the astronauts should be sleeping. There are also points in the video where the woman does indeed sound very worried. She's taking deep breaths, she's stumbling over her words. That this is very good acting for just a training exercise.
Is there a way that the mask can be attached? So is there a way that we could get the suit over the head, have the visor open, and put the mask at least close to his face while you finish sealing up the suit, or is that not feasible?
The woman, who I believe is the flight surgeon, continues to say that, unfortunately, the prognosis for the commander is relatively tenuous. She says she is concerned that there is some severe DCS, decompression sickness, and tells the crew to get him in a suit as soon as possible. Now, before we get into that, this training was supposed to be about the hyperbaric chambers and what to do if a medical emergency arises. But I found out from NASA themselves that overall, hyperbaric chambers are not a routine part of astronaut training or operations on the ISS or other spacecraft. Astronauts are trained to handle a variety of medical situations in space, and they have access to medical equipment and expertise to address most health issues that may arise during their missions. Now, why are hyperbaric chambers not a part of their routine training? Well, that is because, supposedly, hyperbaric chambers are not necessary for astronauts in space because the pressure inside the spacecraft is regulated to provide a safe and habitable environment for the crew. The International Space Station has a similar atmosphere to Earth, with a pressure of 101.3 kPa or 14.7 psi at sea level, which is similar to a hyperbaric chamber. Well, a day after they were putting the sick commander in a spacesuit, news articles dropped that spacesuit discomfort issue postponed spacewalk on the ISS. Yes, a day after this medical emergency was broadcast, they are now having issues with their spacesuits. They are now finding discomfort in their spacesuits where they now need to replace them. Now, one would think if they are really going to the ISS from Earth, they would try on their spacesuits down here on Earth. They would go ahead and say how they're discomfortable, they need new spacesuits before they go to the ISS. But apparently, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, now these spacesuits are discomfortable and they have to be replaced, postponing the spacewalk on the ISS. Isn't that just such a bizarre quote-unquote coincidence? Now, listen to this. These astronauts were supposed to do the spacewalk to collect microorganisms to see how they reproduce. But at one point, the space station ground team received a request for a private medical conference from one of the astronauts. Astronauts have the ability to speak to flight doctors multiple times a week. And of course, they are on calls during strenuous activities like spacewalks, said the live stream host. But out of nowhere, NASA called off the spacewalk shortly after the conference. I just wonder if that medical emergency broadcast had anything to do with calling off the spacewalk, or if there's any connection between the two. But I guess that's just another quote-unquote coincidence. The reason why they called off the spacewalk once again is because they need new spacesuits, because the current spacesuits are supposedly uncomfortable. Well, why would you need a private medical conference for a new spacesuit? Why would you need to contact flight doctors for spacesuits? Well, it doesn't really matter what the answer is because they're just going to BS us anyway. And like I said, there will be people to buy the BS. Well, why would they lie to us, Minutes of Horror? An astronaut, they got sick or they got injured and they needed medical assistance. What is there to lie about? Well, you see, once again, I don't know if this was accidental, intentional, or they're just jumping the gun. But a day before this medical emergency was broadcast or transmitted, there was articles dropping from different news agencies how a drug-resistant superbug that mutated in orbit thrives inside the International Space Station. This article by the New York Post states, it's an out-of-this-world infestation. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station are living with a newly discovered supercharged drug-resistant bug, according to a new scientific study. Scientists discovered a mutated version of a common superbug that is resistant to antibiotics, according to a study. Scientists isolated 13 strands of the bug over 2 years from various locations in the ISS, leaving it in a closed human environment to adapt on its own. Now, a version of this bug is located on Earth, but on the ISS, it happens to be different. For whatever reason, it's supercharged, it's drug resistant, and it's highly infectious, and it mutates constantly. It kind of reminds me of a movie I watched with my wife a few years ago called Life, where these astronauts, they find this bug or this creature, and over time it keeps mutating. Eventually it gets out of control, it goes all over the space station, it starts taking out the astronauts. Eventually, at the end, well, I'm not going to spoil it, but let's say it comes to Earth. Isn't it just strange, isn't it just weird how Hollywood knows about these events in advance? So could this commander have been infected by this superbug, and now they are bringing him back to Earth? They are saying that they are delivering these spacesuits and bringing spacesuits back, but it could be this astronaut they are returning to Earth. Who knows? We never know the truth. Who knows where the ISS is located? It could even be a lab here on Earth where they're conducting experiments like CERN. We really don't know. I don't think, like I said, we'll ever know. The founder of NASA, of Jet Propulsions, was a student of Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons. Look him up. What it sounds like to me, something weird and strange has gone down on the ISS, and once again, we are being lied to. But I do want to hear from you. Please do comment in the comment section below. Do you believe this was only a training exercise that crossed over, or do you believe there was a real emergency, or do you believe this is all intentional to get us prepared for something like they always do? They always have to show us in advance. Whatever your theory is, please do comment in the comment section below. In any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.